Hello everyone, it's been quite a while actually since I made a video. I think about a month or so. I had a few health issues and personal issues which I mentioned before, but got back into the swing of things in respect of painting. Like Ralph was saying about the painting paralysis, I did for a long time find it very hard to get motivated, and I've got one of those little Humbrol workstations, which essentially, for those who don't know, it's just a little, almost like a tray that you would eat your dinner off while watching TV, but made by Humbrol, as I say, a few years ago, and with sections for your paints and brushes, and we live in a flat, so I tend to, when the living room table's not being used for other more mundane purposes such as eating, I try to get 10 or 20 minutes there. I used to paint for 2 or 3 hours at a time. I don't really get the opportunity to do so now, but I at least don't make the mistake of throwing out sort of 60 or so metal castings and getting quite dismayed when they seem to remain at that kind of partially painted stage where they look very ropey. Anyway, I completed these. These have taken me about a month, as I say, with 10 minutes here and there when I get an opportunity late at night. Sometimes early hours of the morning I've got up and basically done some painting. I've got the Highlanders here. You've got the Highland figures who are, I mean, they must be fairly hardy souls to be, without any kind of covering at all on the top of the torso. I've been up to Inverness at many different times of the year, and I wouldn't care to, even walk around in a t-shirt, to be honest. But they paint up very nicely. I was a bit at one point fearing that it didn't look quite right, and it's a tribute to New Line Miniatures, or New Line Miniatures, that the castings really do help even very mediocre paint skills like mine. With a bit of wash afterwards, which, as we know, is always guaranteed to cover up a few sins. I got a half decent effect. I just kept on with the tartans until he looked vaguely okay. Not about gone a bit pink there, to be honest, and not sure he's not a little bit sort of Bay City roller in his appearance, but nevertheless I went for the ginger look again. This chap it's like sort of tartan trews and jacket, and another rifleman or musketeer. Then the British, I know Ralph was a little bit stuck on Barrel's 4th Regiment, a Royal Regiment, I learned, and Ralph was a little bit concerned about the breeches. There was no real sort of mention of whether the line troops, like the Grenadiers, would have blue breeches. I mean, even the illustrations, I don't think the artist knew, because he did a sort of view of the back of the soldier, and his trews, breeches, I don't know if it's saying trews, but his breeches were actually completely concealed, so that didn't help. But one of the Osprey books, I think Cumberland's Culloden Army, but on the basis of like a general consensus, what we could glean from the books, the Osprey books, I mean, I have all of them. I think I had most that Ralph was displaying, and also I've got the like Wolves on the Fold, one of the I've actually got it here. Sorry guys, I'm probably making you travel sick, but like Hungry Wolves, in fact, with some very decent illustrations. Again, nothing mentioning our chosen subject, the blue breeches. Got a bit of work still to do on the bases. I'm still using my water effect product, which gives a good marshy kind of appearance for troops at Culloden. Moderately satisfied with these. As I say, I think I don't think I was concentrating really a lot of the time. As I say, I had 10 minutes here and there, and you know, I did struggle to sit down and content myself. You know, the thing is, by the time you've got the paint tray, and then you've got your Humbrol workstation, and you've cleared a space on the table, and you've attended to a dozen other things, you sometimes think, you know what, I'm just not going to bother painting. I would really love to have a room. We haven't got the space here, but yeah, sometimes I just you know, don't bother. I feel that it's just you know, I'll read a book instead. And yeah, I've got plenty of books here. As I say, the old floor games and Little Wars there from H.G. Wells. Hitler's Alpine Retreat with before and after photographs. Quite interesting book. Peter Cushing, who was a great well, at least collector of soldiers. His life story. I've started to unfortunately fill the shelves up now with other items. You know, so I can't get. When Britain burned the White House, I think I did a review on that book. That was very interesting. I think Gary he got me onto the French Army's camp, and yes, and I don't think that's one I'll ever tackle. But I still buy the odd set of plastic troops because there's some cracking sets coming out. There's a prehistoric set coming out with Neanderthals versus some other very early primitive types, and I think I've got to have them. These two sets were based on illustrations in American comics. You used to be able to send, well, if you're in America, you used to be able to send for plastic armies. And second row down, I've got a number of the illustrated encyclopedias by Digby Smith generally, and Kevin Riley, which are very, very good for uniform detail, although they do have a certain kind of posed modern model look to the figures in the book. You get it, you'll know what I mean. Heroes for Wargames. Again, that's essentially for fantasy. I'm not a fantasy fan, to be honest, but it was worth it for the illustrations. Part of my collection of Osprey. Few rule sets here. Never played a war game, but and then I've got my my stuff from this is my stuff from Lancer Miniatures, which was basically the cavalry and some guns for the Culloden project. Going back, I've got a few wargaming books there. Remagen Bridge, Barnet. I only live up the road from Barnet. Apparently the only battlefield that you can reach by the London Underground, so I learn. Isandlwana is always a favourite. And a couple of magazines that I pulled out that I'd left at my mum's place. Wargamers newsletter. This was from February 78. They were all dating from 78. No colour in these, unfortunately. Very much a homemade look to it. Donald Featherstone's baby, I believe. I remember reading in one interview that he said that he used to go to bed at night dreaming of what armies he was going to paint and how he was going to organise them and woke up in the morning and was still wrestling with the mental problem of, you know, research and colours and everything. And I think we're all like that, aren't we? I certainly think about what I'm going to, you know, hobby-wise, what I'm going to be doing. And yeah, these books are, his editorial can be very politically incorrect, and I think he upset a few people, but it's generally from the heart. I mean, all the letters, it's very old school about, you know, they all meet up and in Southampton and wherever, and have a really ripping, jolly good time. As I say, 1978, it seems like 100 years ago. As I say, very much a kind of homemade appearance to it. But Wargamers newsletter, yeah, I think I'll keep these three. I got them sometime back at the model shop in Harrow, and I'm going to hang on to them simply because they're fairly rare. You know, they're up there. I've still got to get to do the Artillery El Alamein set, which I've added to. I've added a couple of Sherman tanks, Crusader tank, and it's not a bad little set actually. I think it's about £50, but you get an awful lot in it, and you get the El Alamein train station, and the 3 Tintin carved wooden Tintin figures my wife brought me back from Africa. The 2 Elastalin 1930s German wood and glue cast models from the 30s. What else do we have? We have lots of bits and pieces hanging around on these shelves. I think I've reached capacity now. I don't think I'm going to get too much more on there. Had to leave a few books at my mum's place actually. Not the most desirable items, but Battles with Model Soldiers, Donald Featherston's classic. I picked up Creating a Napoleonic Wargames Army. I don't think I'm going to do much with it, but wonderful illustrations in there. I would actually recommend that to anybody with an interest in the period. It's really a very nice book. Set of rules in there as well, I believe. Dan Snow, who's always good value. Biography of General Gordon. And what do we have there? The Story of the Dead Sea Scrolls. I thought I might learn a little bit more about those. A Good Dusting, the book I got from what's the one that's in Crystal Palace? It seems like a lifetime ago now, but the Wargame, is it Selwig? I got that at Crystal Palace, and that set me off on the Sudan campaign. A few more books there to do with the Culloden campaign. As I say, I think some of the books that Ralph's got, and I hope you're doing all right with your painting, Ralph, and you've got past that block. Wargame Compendium, another very good book by Henry Hyde, who sorry, I think it's all going to collapse, but very good illustrations. It's a modern Donald Featherston, really. It encompasses absolutely everything: rules, painting guides. Couple of books there. What have we got? Fontenoy, Charles Grant, and oh yeah, I think I've got Salamis, Great Naval Battle, and Waterloo, all in a battles series. And I'm afraid we're in an absolute state of utter disorganised chaos here at the moment. Got some books there. Battle of Newbury, English Civil War. I went through a period of being quite interested in the English Civil War, painted up a Warlord Games for King and Country set. But yeah, you know, it's all war games related, military history related. Sad to say, I've got a couple of coffin-sized storage chest down in the garage with some of my other books, and I hope they're not suffering too much from damp. But got the ethics guide there, 2 books, and oh, my mum's old wartime national registration identity card, 1942. I think she was 9 or 10 years old, and yeah, it's yeah, everything's good now anyway, and enjoying all your videos. Gary seems to have really picked up. He's got a wonderful painting style now, Wargaming with Gary. I think some of his latest stuff is very, very impressive. I mean, he always was a good painter, but yeah, he's really got a particular style now. They really pop the figures. He was showing some, I think it was a Viking warband the other day in kind of Swedish colours, and it just looks so good. And Fraser, of course, who just, you know, absolutely stuns you with the quality of his work. And Ralph, who, you know, never fails to entertain. I really enjoy Ralph's videos. Very thoughtful, very inspiring. And yeah, Gavin, of course, who is always coming up with something different. I can't think of his surname at the moment, mate. I'm sorry. Put it down to being a bit of a fuzzy head at the moment, but yeah, Gary's always doing like tanks and aircraft kits, and he also does a lot of figures, Napoleonics and stuff for commission. But yeah, very nice bloke, and a good watch, really. And then there's me, and I you know, as I say, I lost my way a little bit recently, but I'm actually quite enjoying the hobby again. It's really so good to you know, to occupy you. You know, as I say, when it got down to actually this this question of the breaches, I loved it. I absolutely loved the research and just trying to do a bit of detective work. And you know, like Ralph was in the same position. You know, everywhere we looked, there was no mention whatsoever of this one simple point. But in the end, you know, I think we've got to go with the fact that it's a Royal Regiment, and the Grenadiers have got blue breeches, but there's no reason why the line wouldn't have the same if it's a Royal Regiment. And I understand we all think that the Grenadiers were the kind of, you know, biggest, strongest men in the regiment, and were picked accordingly. But you know, they weren't necessarily very much different than the line. You know, they were bigger men physically, and supposed to be more robust, shall we say. But you know, I don't think the term Grenadier, at this time at least, it kind of bestowed upon them what the word has later been construed to mean, you know, some kind of super soldier. Not to say they weren't very adept at what they did, but anyway, I digress. There's Dracula popped in again for a bite, and yeah, again picking up a few odds. The Etruscans from Linear A, company called Linear A. And that's what I've got up there. I've got some early war German infantry, some Amazons. I got, purely due to rarity value, I picked up a nativity scene from an Italian company. I think it's an Italian company. Sorry, Russian company. I don't know if I'm ever going to get round to actually doing that, but I picked that up, and yeah, doing okay. You know, got quite a selection here, and you know, I shall update you when I get a few more figures done. At the moment, I'm just starting to go back to the cleaning the flash off the bare metal castings, and starting the process all over again. They're small batches, you know, which have proved to have been a little bit better, easier on the mind. Anyway, not so disenchanted with, as I say, seeing about 50 or 60. I thought I'd crack on with a large number, but it's quite. You feel dismayed when they have that slightly scratchy, rough look for such a long time. Whereas you get through these fairly quickly. The castings really do help you. You know, they help a you know, the less skilled amongst us like myself, and yeah, I was able to you know, take them through that stage where they look bloody awful, and to be honest, got them moderately acceptable. I'm looking out for the bases. I don't know if anyone knows, these bases are equivalent to a 1p coin. I usually pick the bases up at Wargames shows, of which there has not been any for some time, of course. And I don't know who online does them. They all seem to do the slightly bigger sizes. This, as I say, is the 1 pence, approximately 1 pence diameter, and I seem to have run out of bases. So if anyone could put me on to who actually does that. I've also got a few things that I gathered. If I can, oh, there you go. This is, I used to do wargaming. This first item actually is, I think it's Louis the 14th. And this is dated. My uncle actually found this on Hampstead Heath. He just kicked a pile of leaves, and this was many years ago, but it's, I'm not sure the denomination. It's, I think it's 1747, and it's very worn, but a nice find. And the other things I found were when I used to do metal detecting. The big problem there being, of course, trying to get permission. But this was a coin I found in Hertfordshire, and it turned out to be the modern equivalent, or the 1666 equivalent of the McDonald's coffee tokens. Essentially, that's denoting the three hats. They're those Puritan hats of the Civil War and after period. And apparently you got one every time you got a glass of ale, and when you got 6 of them, or however many were the going rate, you redeem them for another tankard of ale. It was from a pub called the Three Hats, run by Mary Tristram in 1666, and I found that while metal detecting on a field in Hertfordshire. And this final item, which at some point, for some reason, I've no idea why, I covered in green paint, I think possibly to preserve it. That was dated by an expert as a piece of horse furniture, essentially across the front of the horse, between the eyes. There would have been a dozen or so of them which jangled and kept the flies away from the horse, in fact. And he dated, the expert that I visited at the time, dated that to 1290. So, you know, just to handle such things, I've gone off the Wargaming model soldier collecting theme somewhat, but hope you forgive me. Yeah, good to be back, and you know, enjoying all your videos, and look forward to seeing some more. And all the best to you guys, and keep up the good work. Take care.